The Minister of Labor and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, yesterday said the federal government was already addressing the grievances raised by members of the National Association of Resident Doctors, NARD. The resident doctors had warned against imminent industrial action if the federal government fails to resolve the myriad of lingering comments, payment, and other related issues affecting its members. Betty Ngige yesterday mentioned the strike threat, said the issues raised by the doctors were already being looked into by the government. He said most of the demands and complaints contained in the association's letter were already being taken up by a committee involving the Ministries of Health, Finance, and the Salaries, Income and Wages Commission. After two failed attempts in 2003 and 2013, President Muhammadu Buhari finally also signed into law the Mental Health Bill, which was harmonized by both chambers of the National Assembly in 2021. It is the first mental health law in post-independence Nigeria, and we also replaced the Lunacy Act of 1958. Medical professionals and the organized civil society have commended President Buhari for this move. Among others, the law will bring about the establishment of human rights protections for those with mental health conditions and the creation of a Department of Mental Health Services in the Federal Ministry of Health. Joining us to discuss this is Dr. Emeka Innocent Orji, National President of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. Thank you very much, Dr. Orji, for joining us on this Day Live, this Sunday Talk Show.
Thank you, Ruben.
Well, let's start with the immediate problem before I begin to bring up other issues in the health sector. Now, the minister, Dr. Charles Ngige, is saying that with regard to hazard allowances, the demand of the National Association of Resident Doctors have been met, substantially. Out of about 13 months, the government has paid more than half of it. And yet the NARD is saying you still want to go on strike. And meanwhile, he's saying that even other key players in the health sector, they have not even received their own allowances. Why is it always these resident doctors, you and your colleagues, always threatening to go on strike? Considering that at this time in the world, they have issues with the health sector in the United Kingdom. In New York, nurses are going on strike also. Here in Nigeria, it's always resident doctors. Resident doctors. What do you people want?
Okay, thank you, Ruben. I want to start by saying that the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has not issued any ultimatum to go on strike. What we did was that we wrote to the Federal Ministry of Health to inform them that our January National Executive Council meeting is coming up by the end of this month. And usually in such a meeting, what is expected is that all the challenges affecting the association and its members will be discussed. And we know that currently we have a lot of issues. I want to start by commending the government ministries, departments, and agencies for the attempts they have made in resolving some of the issues. However, many of them still remain unresolved. I agree that the hazard allowance areas, they have started paying it, not just to doctors, but to all health workers, But you see, our members want the Federal Ministry of Health to be more responsive with some of the issues that we are talking about. You remember that in August last year, there was an ultimatum that was issued during the government of the immediate past administration. And one of the important issues that made now to issue that ultimatum was the issue of the new circular on the medical resident training fund. That circular came with a lot of irregularities, which our members pointed out. And because of that, we wrote and requested for government to look into it again and address those issues. And up till now, that letter has not received adequate attention by the Federal Ministry of Health. And you know, I have to emphasize that we are working under that Ministry of Health. So our members believe that they should take ownership of the issues affecting us and address it before it leads to a stage of industrial disharmony. So that letter was more of to alert the government that our members have started agitating again all over the country because we are their leaders and they reach out to us. You know, we have been getting calls. And from experience, it is this kind of agitation that, if not well managed before that meeting, the National Officers Committee may find it difficult to explain why some of these issues are still unresolved. And we still have some time, you know. So we believe that with the continuous engagement that we are currently having with the Ministry of Health, these issues should be, they should be able to address these issues before that meeting. And we are ready to work with them. We want to be part of the solution to the problem. We know how critical this time is, you know, to go on strike. And we do not want to go on that strike. And that's why we raise this alarm, to appeal to them to address these issues before that meeting. Thank you.
Well, are you giving us an assurance, more or less, that the National Association of Resident Doctors is not planning to go on strike? Because the minister was talking about, the threat to go on strike. So are you saying, you know, that there's no threat to go on strike?
Well, you see, I want to put it on record that the Minister of Labour, Dr. Chris Inge, His Excellency Dr. Chris Inge, has actually been helpful. You know, he has tried to wade in to resolve some of these issues. But you see, the body that is supposed to, or the body that has the responsibility of directing what we do as an association is either the council meeting or the general meeting. We are going to have the National Executive Council meeting in January. And I can assure you that no national officer of NAD can conclusively assure anybody on live TV the decision that will arise from a meeting that is yet to hold. What we are saying is that the agitation is too much. Can our parent ministry help us to resolve this issue? Because since we came on board in 1st of October last year, we have virtually been spending all our time in Abuja trying to resolve this. And we don't know why a letter that was written to them, even from another sister agency, because they also pointed out the issue we are talking about. There is a communication they have been waiting for from the Federal Ministry of Health to address those issues, because they believe that we are working under a parent ministry. And for them to address the issue we raise, that is the National Salary Incomes and Wages Commission that issued the circular in question. That's the clarification they have been waiting for from the Ministry of Health. We are aware that that letter was written to them in September. And this is January 2021. The Ministry of Health is here to respond to it. And the bad aspect of it is that our members are well informed about the issues. So they cannot understand why that response has not come. So we are still appealing that they help, because that is actually the major issue. Yes, we have an outstanding 4 months of hazard allowance, but just like the Honorable Minister of Labour has said, we are aware that they have started making moves to get it defrayed, and we appreciate them for doing so. You know, but our members will want this issue of the circular, and indeed even the 2020 medical residency training fund that is there to be paid to some people. Let all these issues be addressed conclusively before that January neg, so that we don't have any reason to be anxious whether our members will give us this mandate to either issue an ultimatum or even declare a strike action.
Okay, let's talk about the mental health bill, which has been a major source of concern. Twice, you know, the Nigerian government, the Nigerian presidents, one after the other, did not sign it into law. The operative extant law in Nigeria had been the Lunacy Act of 1958. And the major criticism of that Lunacy Act of 1958 is that it discriminates against persons living with mental health, against a run of play in the international community. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari has signed it into law. Now, how much of a milestone is this in terms of the provisions of that act as it now is?
Well, we heard about the Mental Health Act that was signed into law. I think that was last week. And we want to commend the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for signing it. I know that our members goes across all the subspecialties, and we also have psychiatrists in training as members of NAND. We have been able to discuss with some of them on the importance of that law, and we noticed that they are happy about it because from what we know, it attempts to address some of the issues that they have been encountering in attending to their patients. It has a provision for expanding the net and even guaranteeing access to healthcare services by the people involved. It also has a provision for the protection of even the mental health care providers. But as for the details of the importance of that act, I should think that professionals, in the field, like we have the Association of Psychiatrists of Nigeria, and I'm aware that their national president has been on the news trying to discuss this issue, and I want to think that he is in a better position to give details about this bill. This act.
Yeah, but one of the concerns that has been expressed about mental health in Nigeria has been, one, stigmatization. Second, the lack of psychiatrists. Many of our psychiatrists, some of them are running barbing salons. Some of them have gone into politics. We don't even have I don't think we have up to 100 psychiatrists, practicing psychiatrists in the whole of Nigeria. Okay, there are, nurses and other paramedics who are trained, to do psychiatry. What do you think that beyond the law, in terms of enforcing the spirit and principle of that law, what do you think that Nigeria needs to do? Because it's one thing to pass the bill and make it a law. It's another thing to enforce it. A law is useless if it's not operationalized.
Some of these things cannot actually be handled in isolation. You talked about not having enough psychiatrists, but you didn't even mention the major reason why we don't. Many of the psychiatrists have left the country, and some are still living. And we know that it's a good thing to have a law like this, but if you do not have some other provisions or establishment that can support the effective implementation of this law, it becomes a problem. We do not have enough psychiatrists. It's a common knowledge. And part of the reason is that many of them are leaving because of poor remuneration, insecurity, and even attacks on healthcare professionals. And we believe that these things should be addressed for you to be able to effectively implement any law that will have to improve rendering of services in any field at all in the medical profession. Over the last few weeks, we have released some statistics to show that this brain drain is actually worsening. And we want to appeal to the government to look into it. In fact, we actually had to do a study on the reason why our members are going away. And those facts have been presented before the Nigerian government. We want them to address it. Another important thing is to also address funding. Because like this law has talked about having an establishment within the Ministry of Health, and even there is a legal way of actually insisting or committing a mental health patient against his will to be treated if it's constituting some form of a public nuisance and or that. So you realize that some of these things we need funding, and up till now, Nigeria is yet to even achieve the 15% budgetary allocation, according to the Abuja Declaration of 2001, where various heads of state in the African continent met and decided that for any government or any country to make any visible impact or any visible improvement in their healthcare system, that the government must budget annually a minimum of 15% to their health. Nigeria has never met that, and in fact, if you look at the 2023 budget as approved by the president, you will realize that the figure there, I think, is less than 6%. So if you do not have enough funds, how do you take care of the manpower requirements, the remuneration, the infrastructure that you need to guarantee this level of services that even this Mental Health Act has stipulated? So it should be a holistic approach if we are going to make any progress in our health sector. Thank you.
Okay. Just before we wrap up, COVID-19. Many countries of the world, including Malaysia, including even the US, the UK, Japan, have expressed concern about the upsurge in COVID COVID-19 incidents, or the variant of the Omicron, particularly BX 1.5 in parts of the world. But the Nigerian Center for Disease Control told us that, those variants have not shown up in Nigeria, and that Nigeria does not need to put restrictions on travelers from China. And we know that Nigeria and China, we have a very strong connection, either in terms of tourism or business or investment. Now, it's only now that the Center for Disease Control is saying, they will ramp up surveillance. Do you think that, Adetifa, that's his name, Dr. Adetifa and his team, do you think that they're not showing enough seriousness about this threat of the resurgence of COVID-19?
Well, I can only say that they need to do more than they are doing, because this issue of COVID-19, if you move around the country, you will realize that it looks as if Nigerians have totally forgotten about it. I think that the awareness, we should improve on the awareness and try to insist that the Nigerian public should take those pharmaceutical and non-pharmaceutical measures that have been taught for them to protect themselves, especially people who have other health conditions that can increase their risk of getting this infection or even having complications arising therefrom. So we believe that a lot of awareness should be done, and the Nigerian Center for Disease Control should take a lead, and even the Federal Ministry of Health. That is the position of NAD as of now.
Well, Dr. Orji, just before we go, you mentioned brain drain as one of the major challenges in the health sector. I guess we face the same challenge in other sectors, whether it's education or any other area where you have professionalism. Particularly with regard to the health sector, this same Dr. Iginge that we started with says any Nigerian doctor that wants to go can go, that there are enough doctors on the ground. You are president of the National Association of Resident Doctors. What have you seen? Do we have enough doctors? And can we confidently say whoever wants to go, whether to Saudi Arabia or the UK, can go and queue up at hotels and try to get better, greener, pastures in other parts of the world?
Well, to start with, I want to believe that governments may have their own facts, as to the gravity of brain drain, and even the statement you are referring to was made a long time ago. I'm not sure it's the recent position.
But in the life of this administration.
Of government, but we know like I said before, that this brain drain is currently threatening the health sector. In fact, why I say that that statement was made a long time ago is that just like I appreciated the Honorable Minister of Labour, the truth is that even right now, the government has set up a committee that has been sitting since last year to look into this brain drain and find a way of preventing it or reducing it. You know, and because you see, the thing is so serious that even within the hospital environment, we simply do not have enough people. And the irony is that you will still have doctors roaming the streets outside looking for this employment in the hospital. But because of the bureaucracy involved in recruitment of clinical staff, it has simply not been easy, you know. And this is also what is leading to, or what is contributing to this violence against health professionals. Because when you have one doctor, for instance, doing the work of about 10 people, he cannot be effective. And the citizens of this country will take their anger on you. You know, we lost a doctor a few days ago, you know, on circumstances that the Nigerian police is still investigating. But from the report we have from our members, it borders on, you know, violence against healthcare professionals. And we've been shouting about this. You know, so the government they have set up a committee that has been discussing. All we want to appeal is that the work of that committee should be facilitated. We believe it is taking too long. We need a mechanism for immediately replacing clinical staff that left the hospital, either by retiring or by moving away to other institutions internally, or even leaving for other countries, because we are simply not enough. It has led to industrial dispute in many centers in this country. And we feel that if we continue that way, it will not help anybody. So we have immediate things that can be done, and then long-time plan of things to be done. Number one is that find a way of quickly replacing those who have left the system, because I can tell you, we still have doctors outside the system. The second thing is that improve on remuneration, improve on the security within and outside the hospital environment. There is no reason why up till now you have teaching hospitals, you have federal medical centers with resident doctors who are not residing within the hospital environment, which was actually the plan when that training was instituted. You are supposed to be living in that environment. It helps you in the training. It helps you to be available to even attend to the patients when you have mass casualty and all that. So these are the areas we've been engaging government in, and we believe that much as we appreciate the fact that this is a political season, we want to also appeal to them to not be playing politics alone. They should also look at the healthcare sector, so that we don't have a situation whereby after the election on the 25th of February this year, by the time they come back, they realize that you do not have any doctor again in the hospitals to take care of Nigerians. Well, thank you.
Dr. Orji, I would like to thank you very much for joining us on this Live This Sunday talk show. And I take special notice of the fact that for the first time, when I discuss this subject with guests on this program or in any other program, people come criticizing Dr. Chris Ngige. I think he must be excited. At least he now has a president of the National Association of Resident Doctors who will go on international television to praise him for certain things.
Sorry, sir. I want to say,
interesting development.
Yes, I want to say that, you see, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, we are very objective people. We have had issues with His Excellency Dr. Chris Ngige, but I mean, if he is helping us this time around, there's no reason why we should not appreciate him, because that is who we are. So there's no point hiding the fact that he has tried to help us, and we want to appreciate and appeal that he continue helping us to even avert this impending strike action.
Very diplomatic president of the National Association of Resident Doctors. I hope that yields results. And I will not be faced with another strike action by the National Association of Resident Doctors. Thank you very much.